Hello, YouTube. Hi, David. So, I have not uploaded a video in quite some time, and I don't really. I guess I got bored, and I know the quality of my content is not up to. It's neither entertaining or edutaining. It's mostly just somebody who thinks they know something. So I figured I'd just take some time instead to listen and try to learn one way or another. Because once you think you know it all, that's when you're literally just making a fool of yourself. And I wasn't really trying to pretend like I know stuff. I was just making videos, I guess, for fun. But I would like to maybe one day get a laptop, a microphone, better editing software, not just do every single thing. Not every single thing, like the score, like some of the music I put in some of the videos. I do use a Chromebook for that, and but that's it. Since Chromebook runs on Linux, I'm not too familiar with any of it. It does have a camera on the laptop, but again, I don't know the resolution. I don't know how good it is, but it would enable me to be able to maybe use two cameras as opposed to just the one, which is this one, the one from this iPhone 13 mini, which I'm not getting paid to say this, but by far, uh, this has been the best iPhone I've owned. I haven't owned every single model or too many for that. I think I had one time like maybe like I can't even recall the first one I had, but I know I had the iPhone 6s, which I liked because it was small and I got a good deal, so I bought two of them. And that was actually the first iPhone that my daughter, I bought it for my daughter. I got two. I got one in black and one in rose pink. The rose pink one was supposed to be for me. As you can tell, I like pink. And this is my Inter Miami shirt, which I got before they had Mas, Messi, Alba, Suarez, which just so happens to be the last name of the co-directors with Beckham. They don't actually. It's weird how MLS is structured, but they don't own the teams. They can only manage them, which I thought is kind of odd because I think in the NFL, like the owner owns the team. And another thing I think is ridiculous is like in American football, which is obviously just a sport that's mostly popular here in the States. There is some following, I think, like in England and Germany, but other than that, it will never have the same reach as soccer because it's too expensive. It's like, for instance, hockey. If you want to play hockey, you need blades, you need a stick, you need safety equipment. There's a lot of expenses into it. Same thing with football. You need a helmet, you need pads. You also have to essentially bulk up because it's a physical sport, like that includes physical contact. Soccer is a very physical sport too. If you see some of those bicycle kicks that El Charrúa hace, El Señor Suarez, man, and some of the way La Pulga, the way he headbutts and makes goals, that guy is my height. I'm only like 5'6", and he towers over these other players. Like for instance, when it's like a corner kick, he towers over them, makes a goal in with his head. It's just amazing. And when La Pulga starts dribbling, because he's short, his center of gravity is lower, so I think that's an advantage for him. but his dribbling is so amazing, it's so inspiring. It literally makes me want to get up and start dancing. Okay? So Messi, if you're watching this, much love, my friend. Suarez, you are an inspiration, man. I love you too, man. And Jordi and Sergio, I know you guys aren't as famous as obviously El Charro y La Pulga, but you guys have been there from the beginning. The only thing I regret, like looking back at the history of like in Barca in general, was I was not too much into soccer. I didn't really get into soccer until about 2000, until about when my daughter was born, which was around 2012, give or take. Which was around the time that I think Carles, what was his last name again? I think they called him like the coach or the manager. He was a defender. He had the funny hair. He was from Barca. His father was his inspiration. His father told me, well, I saw a tape on him. I liked it, and I even left a comment with like a heart because it was heartfelt. His father said, "Look, I don't care if any of the other players on that pitch are better than you. All I care is that you give it 110%, that you try the best that you can. And but if you come back and you didn't give it all you had and you didn't make it, I will be disappointed. But if you come back and you gave it everything you got, whether you made it or not, I'm proud of you, son." So, that hearing things like that how his dad was his inspiration, it's just amazing. And he was one of the, when you see him, it's like I'm not even sure who my favorite player now. I don't know if it's Iniesta or this gentleman. I gotta find his name out. I'm gonna title this video after his name, in honor of him. But he was a team player. He was a great defender, and he gave it all to the game. And when he retired, it was due to an injury, and he knew that the level of playing that was needed at that level for that club, especially because Barcelona is not a cheap club, it's very expensive. I don't know if it's Real Madrid expensive, but Real Madrid is a ripoff. The way they treat their players, I would never even think about joining Real Madrid. Todos los colchoneros, I'm sorry, man, but your team. Wait, colchonero is yeah, no son los colchoneros es Atlético. Ellos son los merengueros, todos los merengueros. I'm sorry, man, but your team rips off its players, man, just straight up. Charges them for their likeness, a percentage of, from what I understand, I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, somebody comment and correct me. It charges them for like a percentage of their sponsorship. And then not just that, but the country of Spain, the way that they tax their athletes, that's a crime in and of itself. You guys are saying that your economy is so dependent on La Liga that you have to tax your players to that extent? Are you serious? Get the fuck out of here, man. I mean, that's just backwards thinking. I mean, I know you guys had that guy Francisco Franco for like 100 years, but I mean, times have changed and things aren't getting better, actually. Trump, when he becomes president, he is going to pardon all of the convicts that are in prison, and he's going to start putting all the immigrants in jail. So anybody that wants to come into this country is going to be welcome. Everybody that committed a crime, including violent ones like murder, or chomos, or you know, uh, what was that called? Like theft with firearms, anything associated with firearms. All of those, as long as they're naturalized or they're citizens, they're going to be let out of jail. If they're immigrants, they're going to stay in jail. And all the immigrants that are coming to this country are going to go to jail. And that is what Trump is going to do. Now, another thing that Trump's going to do, which is what I'm not looking forward to, he's going to start the next Great War, or World War III for the historians. And it's going to be a little bit weird because the media, as much as we have so-called free press, it's not as free as we are taught or as we are made to think. There's going to be a lot of propaganda. There's going to be a lot of misinformation. We're not going to have the actual facts of what's truly happening. But there's going to be a war, and no matter, as soon as Trump hits that nuclear button, it's going to be the end of humanity as we know it. And not just for the target that he hits, because as I was explaining the other day, everything is associated with energy. Life itself, even the fundamentals of physics, nuclear force, strong nuclear force, weak nuclear force. One is energy that holds the most elemental particles together. The other one is the decay of energy, so it releases energy. Electromagnetism, that's energy that is that travels in electromagnetic waves. And gravity. Gravity is energy that is exerted by the mass of an object. It exerts it on another body of mass. So like the sun, which makes up about 99.9% of the mass in this solar system. That's why all of the planets apparently rotate around it, because all the planets only make up less than 1% of all the mass in the solar system. So you could imagine, it's kind of hard to visualize because our brains, after a certain, how they say, like when you get to a certain size number, it just doesn't make sense anymore. It's really hard to visualize the size of the sun, but you can imagine we're 150 million kilometers away from it, 93 million miles, and we're not like our planet. It's not like a rogue planet. And even if it went rogue, we could still inhabit this planet. We just have to move in closer to the core, because the core is still warm. But the problem is, if the Earth stops rotating, I would imagine that the core would eventually lower in its temperature. I'm not sure. I'm not a geologist or whatever type a person studies like earth sciences, but again, please comment. I would love to read people's comments if anybody gets to see this. I was checking my email. I saw a couple people subscribe. Thank you. I appreciate that. I thank you very much. I'm going to look over to see who subscribed. I'll subscribe back. I'm more than glad. If you make content. If you don't make any content, please don't get mad if I don't subscribe. I like to subscribe as long as you make some content. That way, I don't know, because it's YouTube. And essentially, if you're worried about privacy, let me tell you something. You're too late. Privacy has been taken away ever since the Bush administration. And they did that. They already knew that, because the CIA already knew about the terrorist attacks. The only thing is, and it makes a lot of sense, the CIA does things that are illegal. In other words, things that would not be able to be prosecuted in a court of law. But they're allowed to operate outside of the law, because essentially they don't operate. They're not supposed to operate within this country. So when they're abroad, if they break a law, what are they going to do to them? You think, the military really, I don't think could intervene. But if you're a CIA field agent, I'm pretty sure you got some tricks up your sleeve. You're very good in linguistics, so you're able to communicate well. Depending on the region you're going to, you're going to have you're going to be knowledgeable about what you're facing. You're not going to be going in some place blind. You're going to probably have decent firepower, because wherever you travel, you're not traveling in a regular airplane. You're probably taking like a private jet or something. And obviously with satellites now and in the way that things are being imaged, I think a low orbit satellite now has a resolution that's as good as like 1 centimeter, I think it is, or a couple centimeters, maybe 10 centimeters. So in other words, like a satellite orbiting in low Earth orbit, if they take a picture facing down when it's a clear day, there's not much clouds, they can literally, like, if you buy like a bag of fast food, they can look at the bag and they can see what you bought. And this is from cameras, spy satellites, cameras that are put into space, and all the superpowers have it, and they all know about it. Especially after Trump tweeted that thing saying that, oh look, we didn't bomb Iran, you could see it wasn't us. And then people that are really into that, they started looking at the shadows. And once you learn about, there's a certain level of mathematics that once you start learning about orbits and like elliptical orbits and things like that, you can track their trajectories. Like how Newton was the one that was able to track the coming of Halley's Comet through mathematics. And allegedly Newton, I think, wrote the book of calculus, I think it was, in like 24 hours. But according to something I heard, that book had already been written by the Arabs, like centuries before, but it was written over. And I actually believe that because Arabics are very, very intellectual. We get a lot of words from them, like algebra, alcohol, a lot of words that are derived from their terminology. That's why that's one of the languages I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn Russian, I wanted to learn Mandarin, Arabic, and German. German would have been an easy start. That's another thing. I kind of haven't gave up on learning Russian. I always say Cyrillic alphabet, but there was another saint that helped Saint Cyrillic with it. And also very important, they did not say, oh, this is our alphabet. It was actually given to them after their death. To honor them, they said this is the Cyrillic alphabet. Because obviously, if you're a saint, you're going to be modest. You're not going to be like, you're not going to be filled with pride. Which I feel bad because I called somebody a saint, but then I took it back. But not because of anything bad. If anything, it was good because, you only live one life, and I'm super stoked for that person. I'm not going to say who it is. They know. And I'm very, very happy. I'm stoked for both of them, both two people, which I'm not going to say their names, but I'm super happy for them. That says that one of them is not doing too well, but I don't think it's possible for, and now I'm being sexist, for a woman not to do too well. Women, as long as they have just enough support, I think, in my opinion, women tend to have higher like levels of like self-esteem and of being happy. And I mean, when you can climax like 8 times in a row, I mean, what more could you ask for? I mean, and I know all of my videos are not meant for kids. If my daughter sees it, my daughter is very smart, and I tell her how it is. And this is what I always told all girls that were young. And I only said it because when you go through puberty, it's a very tough time. What is it called? The glands that produce hormones in your body, they're on overdrive. So instead of being able to think rationally with your mind and your thoughts, sometimes your hormones can take over. So what I used to tell, like, if it was like my cousin, or in this case now my daughter, one is how to act like a lady. So anytime my daughter farts in front of me, I always tell her, honey, don't ever do that in front of a man or someone that you like or you're attracted to, or burp. Those are things that ladies don't do. And another thing I tell her is, if there's a guy that you like and you really, really like that person, whatever you do, do not engage in sexual relations with that individual. If your hormones are in overdrive and you have to just do it with someone who you're not in love with and you don't want to be with. And the reason why I say that is because once a man, because men are scums, we're scumbags. Once a man has had a relation with a woman, he already had the whole, not just the dinner, but the dessert. So what is he gonna want to do? He's gonna want to go to another restaurant and eat something new. So that's why I tell my daughter, and other girls too, which I know is unorthodox, but who are we kidding? When kids go through puberty, hormones are very strong, they're very powerful. You could tell children not do this, not do that, but at the end of the day, they're gonna have to learn from their own mistakes. A lot of kids do. I do tell my daughter, any fool can learn from their own mistakes, but a wise person learns from the mistakes of others. I also tell her before school every day, if you want to make today the best day possible, what are the 3 things we do? And she'll let you know what they are. The first one is to listen. So I tell her, listen to the teacher when she's explaining things. And then if you have a question, that's the second thing. Ask questions. I'm not going to say the third thing. That's between me and her. But going back to the listening part, I also tell her, listen to other students as well. Maybe they ask a question that you might have, or maybe they do something that you were thinking of doing, but learn and see what the consequences are from their actions. That way maybe it might make you think twice about doing the same thing, or you see what happens when you do that. Because I also taught her from a long time ago that, actions have consequences. Oh my gosh, she's getting old. These are all things that I've spoken with her about years and years ago. Oh my goodness. But heaven willing, she's going to be starting Walter C. Young next year. I double checked. They do have uniforms, so I'm glad. They did not have it when I went there. I remember Mrs. Herrera. Hi, Mrs. Herrera, in case you see this. I don't remember many teachers, but I do remember you. And you weren't even a teacher. You were the vice principal. I remember Officer Paul. Hi, Officer Paul. I hope that, well, no, we never had any hard feelings. We always meet up after that. I accidentally, one day, they sent the school resource officer, Officer Paul, to my house to talk to me, to get me to go to school. So I'm laying in bed. Next thing I know, I'm being manhandled. Someone's pulling me by my arm, and they're literally dragging me, and I just got up from bed. I don't know what's going on. So I started, pulling and, trying to get away. And in the process, this is a small house. It's a townhouse. So the halls aren't way too big. It's not a mansion. He hits himself against a framed, picture, which was covered in glass. And he cuts himself. Next thing I know, 13-year-old me, I'm charged with battery on a law enforcement officer. Which, if you know the police, they keep... First of all, they're like a practitioner, like a doctor. They write down everything, at least the ones that do the work. Some of them don't want to do work, which is understandable too, because for what? Unless maybe they want to get overtime, because when they go to court, to show up for court, even if they're there for just 15 minutes, they get paid for 3 hours, okay? Police officers don't have it that bad. And just put it this way, Pembroke Pines is one of the best paying districts. I was in the back of the cop car one time for a Pembroke Pines police officer. You know what he was doing on his laptop? He was checking his Bank of America balance, okay? So, and now in the rougher neighborhoods like Metro Dade, they don't get paid squat. I mean, I don't know how much my neighbor, the Mr. Polito, bless his soul, I don't know how much he makes, but I just, I really don't care. Not that I don't want him to make money. I just care more like that he has the most boring days possible. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean that because I know his mother, and I could just imagine. I mean, I'm sure she's probably, used to it by now, but nobody wants to see their child get hurt, on the job. His mother already suffered a lot, and so, if he has a boring day, that's good. If he never has to draw his gun, if hopefully nobody's disrespectful to him, and they better not, because he's a big guy. He'll knock you out. He's cool. I like him. But and also, I also had a recent encounter with a Pembroke Pines police officer. He was a young gentleman, very handsome. Both of them were young, actually. They were both younger than me, possibly by like 15, 20 years maybe. And the young man read me my Miranda rights. And I have to say, I was very impressed. He knew every single word verbatim, and he said it very professionally. Like you could tell that he was very, his professionalism was quite impressive. And at the end of the day, he didn't arrest me, which, thank you, sir. If you do watch this, officer, I appreciate that. But he was a very handsome young man. Any woman or man, if that's what he likes, would be lucky to have him, because, usually, I mean, when people are in uniform, it actually creates a sense of authority. And anything that creates a sense of authority, in a way, is kind of attractive. So that's why, like, if you see a woman in a uniform, you're like, wow, that's nice. I mean, I guess if I was inclined to like men, I guess, it'd be the same thing. But I mostly am concerned about, I'm sure I've done things that are wrong because I'm Catholic. That's just the way I was raised. But I'm mostly just concerned about just safety and the well-being of others. I don't like the fact that, even though, this is the place where I live, that, I don't mind that people own guns. I just don't like the reason they own them. If you like to collect them, okay. If you like to use them recreationally, okay. But if you buy one for like self-defense, you're kind of asking for trouble, and also you have to learn how to store them properly. And like I said, if you buy them for self-defense, that means you're probably going to keep one loaded, and that's just, it's dangerous. Okay, probably more accidents happen that way than actually people defending themselves. I don't believe in it. I mean, I wouldn't mind guns, like, to go to a range, or maybe like with like a rifle, shoot the place, something like that. I don't know if I'd be big into killing animals unless it's like an invasive species, or it's a species that's not extinct, and it's essentially you could consume the meat. And also if I knew how to hunt, because there are humane ways to kill an animal, like certain, like if you shoot them in a certain way. If I was not a good hunter, or I didn't practice enough, I don't think I would do it, because it would just be inhumane to see an animal have to suffer. And lately I've been watching a lot of animal like videos on YouTube. I don't know why. I guess my mom was gone for a little while, and at first it kind of shocked me a little bit. I went through like a phase where I was like, I don't know, but then I realized how blessed and how lucky I am to have such a loving father who is, I always say he's my king, but he's not just my king. He's a king. He's a king in his own right. And that's it. pray for me or visualize that I can make my parents, make mom and dad proud, please. And also subscribe while you're at it. Bye.